Hello, people. We're going to look at another set of critical reasoning questions. You can pause the video here. You can read this particular passage. This is question number 1, and this is question number 2. You know the drill, right? So don't take too much time, though, when you're pausing the video. It's about a couple of paragraphs. So the reading part should not actually take you more than 45 seconds, maybe a minute. The two questions, let's just say another 1.5 minutes. 5 minutes is what you generally set yourself. These are critical reasoning questions, so you may probably want to take, say, around 6 minutes max. Okay, anyways, let's look at the passage. Proponents of cultural diversity in teams presume that it leads to cognitive diversity. Assume. Okay, there's not much of a difference, but the pre adds to the meaning. Pre means that, from beforehand itself. That's the established notion. Presume that it leads to cognitive diversity, that is diversity in thoughts and ideas. So this part is just your definition of cognitive diversity. Watch out for phrases like these, because they give you meanings of terms, otherwise ambiguous terms. So cognitive diversity, I can understand it in a number of ways, but if the author is telling you what it means, you stick to that, because in the questions later you'll have to utilize this meaning, right? So cognitive diversity is diversity in thoughts and ideas. Proponents of cultural diversity in teams presume it leads to cognitive diversity. But, okay, and that's your mighty word here. So you know that the author does not, or most probably does not really approve of this particular presumption, that, or something related to that. Okay, the positivity will be missing. This part is positive, right? Because it's leading to diversity in thoughts and ideas. What do we find here? The findings about whether cognitive diversity helps or hinders team performance are inconclusive. So we do not know whether cognitive diversity helps or hinders team performance. Again, you'll have to notice here that two unequal comparisons have been, unequal terms have been compared here, and you do not want to misread this particular piece of information. So we do not, the but here does not really convey that this is not true. Cultural diversity does not lead to cognitive diversity. That's not what is happening here. This may still be true. This probably is true. However, we don't know whether cognitive diversity helps or hinders team performance. So team performance is the new term that has been introduced in the second sentence. Okay. Part of the problem is that these studies use imperfect proxies. Again, the findings about whether cognitive diversity helps or hinders team performance are inconclusive. These studies comes from here. Obviously, again, the findings are inconclusive. You're not able to be sure of, trust those findings. Part of the problem is that these studies use imperfect proxies for cognitive diversity, such as diversity in demographics, personalities, or self-reported beliefs and values. So according to the author, cognitive diversity is not this. Cognitive diversity is not this, not this, not this, because the author used the term imperfect proxies, right? So imperfect proxies for cognitive diversity, all these are imperfect. So according to the author, that's none of these are actually what cognitive diversity is all about, but that's what the studies presume. Moreover, this line of research has rarely looked at how diversity is actually expressed in communications and interactions, which is problematic given that team members are sometimes reluctant to share the real feelings and opinions. So two problems. Problem number one, people don't even understand what is cognitive diversity. They're looking at the wrong parameters, like diversity in demographics, personalities, self-reported beliefs and values, whatnot. Secondly, people do not, they look at how diversity is actually, the line of research has rarely looked, so not looked at how diversity is actually expressed in communications and interactions, which is problematic. Why is it problematic? Because team members are not sharing their feelings. So even if there is diversity in thoughts and ideas, which is cognitive diversity, if people are not sharing their thoughts and people are not sharing their feelings and opinions, then what's the point of the cognitive diversity, right? And then this is not being discussed. That's a second problem. Finally, which means there's a third problem, you have to love passages like these, because the author has beautifully organized everything for you. Okay, when you're trying to decide which passage to leave out, don't leave out a passage that has been so neatly organized such as this. Finally, cognitive diversity is often assumed to be static, even though we know team dynamics frequently change over a project's life cycle. So cognitive diversity is assumed to be static. We know the team dynamics frequently. So see, if you notice, there's a hidden assumption in this particular sentence, right? How do I know that there is an assumption? When two sentences are connected to each other. Number one, Okay, and the second part of the statement is second part or second idea is dependent on the first idea, but the term used in the second idea is different from the term used in the first idea. You know, this is probably an assumption. So cognitive diversity is often assumed to be static, even though team dynamics frequently change over a project's life cycle. So what is the assumption? The assumption is that team dynamics influence cognitive diversity. Okay, this is important piece of information here, because here the definition is diversity in thoughts and ideas, but does not really say the diversity in thoughts and ideas actually varies based on team dynamics. And that's where the second sentence here becomes important: communication. Okay, so diversity in cognitive diversity is diversity in thoughts and ideas, but cognitive diversity is useful or it's not being effective because people are not communicating or articulating their thoughts and ideas. And team dynamics influences cognitive diversity. So you see all these things are connected. So by the end of the paragraph, I know that team dynamics are also important for cognitive diversity. Okay, that's the assumption here, because here you use the term cognitive diversity, here you said team dynamics. So saying cognitive diversity is often assumed to be static, even though team dynamics changes, which means the author believes team dynamics change, cognitive diversity should also change, or it should not be assumed as static. Which means the assumption is that cognitive diversity is influenced by team dynamics. That's how you spot assumptions. Okay, you see a gap between the terms used, but there is still a interconnection, or there is a relation between first idea and the second idea. Okay, also you have to get out of the mindset that, you know, one sentence represents one idea, one sentence can represent multiple ideas. So an argument just needs two ideas. So the same sentence could be a complete argument where part one of the idea and there's part two of the idea. Okay, for example, a simple sentence like, although it's raining, I would still go out, is an argument. Okay, where the assumption is that when it rains, I should not be going out. Okay, that's the assumption. So you have to watch out for arguments. Okay, inside a sentence, sometimes one sentence itself can be conveying two pieces of information in the form of an argument, and there could be an assumption which is hidden. So there could be three pieces of information that you're reading from one sentence. Okay, and that's why good reading is important. Anyways, in a new study which two of us conducted with Stanford researchers, A and B, don't just read the names, avoid as much as possible, improve your peripheral vision. Then you can see that there's a name coming and just jump over it. We overcame these challenges by analyzing the content of Slack messages exchanged among team members of 117 remote software development teams. This is just factual, and this is just report. The tone here is called reporting. It's giving you information, so you don't want to care about it. We identified instances when team members discussing similar topics use diverse meanings, perspective, styles, and then analyze the impact of the diversity on performance. For example, in discussions of customer requirements, different interpretations of the desired look and feel of the user interface, in some cases, led developers to talk past one another and fail to coordinate, but in other cases, sparked creative new ideas. So this kind of goes and connects to this part here. Okay, that's the connection supposed to be making. You should not lose track of this part. So what is it saying? In discussions of customer requirements, they may, okay, now point number one to note is this particular finding and research is not this. Okay, this is what the authors did. Authors call these findings not good enough. Okay, but then the authors themselves, the author of this passage themselves, they made this particular experiment or survey or whatever it is. The point is that I have to connect these two ideas. Doesn't mean this and this are the same. Okay, that part you'll have to be able to catch. Now, why did I connect? Because that's what they found out, right? There is negative and there is positive. So diversity could hamper the communication or hamper teamwork, and sometimes it creates new ideas also. So there's good, there's bad. Okay, that's what you'll have to be able to catch from their study. Okay, let's look at the questions now. Which of the following strengthens the argument presented in the first part of the passage? The big question, the $1 million question for you would be, what's the argument in the first part of the passage? If you remember the structure of the first part of the passage, part of the problem, one second. Part of the problem, okay, moreover, finally. So we have 3 points to justify. So obviously this entire thing is elaboration. Okay, all this is an elaboration exercise. What is the argument? And this part is build up. Okay, proponents think like that. Where is the argument here? The argument is this part. But the findings about whether cognitive diversity helps or hinders team performance are inconclusive. Okay, part of the problem is this, and then moreover, this line of research has this problem, and finally, cognitive diversity is assumed. So we don't know. Basically, the argument the author is trying to make right across the whole paragraph is from top to bottom. Hey, we have done some research, but the research is useless. Okay, not exactly useless. Inconclusive doesn't mean useless. Inconclusive means that we can't be sure. Ambivalent. So ambivalent and ambiguous both. Okay, here actually one of those rare scenarios. So findings about whether cognitive diversity helps or hinders team performance are inconclusive. That's your argument. That's point number one. That's what you have to spot. So I'm looking for an answer which tells me, hey, yeah, this is true. We do not really understand whether cognitive diversity is good or bad. That's the kind of option we are looking for, right? So now option A says diversity in demographics is known to improve quality of ideas. Okay, so this doesn't strengthen the argument that it's inconclusive. From option A, diversity in demographics is known to improve quality of ideas. Two things can happen. Number one, it proves the author wrong in that the author says demographics has got nothing to do with cognitive diversity, if you remember. So the moment I said diversity in demographics is actually helping quality of ideas, which is connected to cognitive diversity, it proves the author wrong. So it weakens the argument that way. Okay. There's a second aspect to it. The second aspect to it is in terms of the tone itself. The tone in option A is favorable towards cognitive diversity, the topic itself. But we need to strengthen the argument that the research is not good enough. But A, if I accept A, at least I'll know that the research is working because I know partly. So A can be eliminated straight away because A does not strengthen the argument. B, cognitive diversity improves team performance when team dynamics are managed well. Again, it's telling you for sure that cognitive diversity is good. We are getting the relationship, or we're getting the effect of cognitive diversity on team performance. The argument says we do not know, right? So I can eliminate this particular option as well. On tone, positive, positive. Diversity of ideas is a double-edged sword, neutral. Okay, from tone, I know that C is a better option than A and B. Double-edged sword in the context of team communication. Double-edged sword is a idiomatic expression, which means there's good, there's bad. Okay, or it can benefit you, it can hurt you. Both sides, right? Double-edged sword. So one side works for you against your enemies, one side could cut you itself. So diversity of ideas is a double-edged sword in the context of team communication. So kind of supports the whole idea that we do not know. It can work both ways. See, also notice that instead of saying cognitive diversity, I just said diversity of ideas. This is what question setters often do. In that, instead of giving you the term, I'll just confuse you by giving you a new set of words. So you should be reading this and this and this the same way. It should not distract you. Okay. Cognitive diversity and cultural diversity are known to be correlated. Now, if you go back, what does it say? Proponents of cultural diversity in teams presume that it leads to cognitive diversity. Cognitive diversity and cultural diversity are known to be correlated. So basically agrees with the first sentence. Does it strengthen the argument? No, because there was a but after this, if you remember, and I have to strengthen author's argument, right? So this doesn't work. So the answer to this particular question will be option C. I hope you got that right. Let's look at the next question. Which of the following will the author least likely to approve of? Will the author least likely to approve of means the author would say, okay, no, this is not true. I won't agree with it. Okay. Approving of something is another way of asking, does the author agree or disagree? Another way of saying which of the following can be inferred from the passage, same as the author approving of. But here, if you notice, all studies. So I'm looking for a study that according to the author will not be useful. Okay. Not that that particular study or whatever the answer I pick is useless. Is that in the author's pecking order, that will be the least useful study. So let's look at the studies. Okay, a study of why teammates are reluctant to articulate diverse opinions. Yes, the author will definitely approve of it. Why will the author definitely approve of it? Because the author himself or herself has said that, you know, the line of research has rarely looked at how diversity is actually expressed in communication interaction, which is problematic given that team members are sometimes reluctant to share their feelings. So if I have a study of why teammates are reluctant to articulate diverse opinions, yes, the author would like it, right? Option B, a study of how cognitive diversity can be accurately estimated from demographics and personalities. Okay, we'll keep it aside because no, I don't think the author will agree with it. Why will the author not worry about it so much? Is because the author does not even think that demographics and personality are connected to cognitive. The author does not think so. So why will the author say this is an important study, right? This thing here, you're wasting time, money, and effort and whatnot. Study of the most accurate parameters to measure cognitive diversity, yes, the author will approve because the author is saying the present parameters, demographics, what were the parameters? Demographics, personality, self-reported beliefs, values. Okay, the author is unhappy with all these things. Therefore, if there is a study that checks what are the actual parameters, then the author will be happy. So he'll say a study of the most accurate parameters to measure cognitive diversity. Yes, we should. About time we should be doing it, right? So C, the author will approve. A study of the correlation, if any, between cognitive diversity and team dynamics. The author says we do not know how cognitive diversity influences team dynamics. So a study which checks the correlation, author will approve, right? So which of the following is the author least likely to approve? This, because the author does not even believe cognitive diversity can be measured through demographics and personalities, right? So the answer to this particular question is option B, Bombay. The other thing you have to learn from this particular question, whenever you have this part, okay, you would see this in questions, the CAT paper as well. Whenever you see a question on study, the point is to go back to the passage and check which were the open-ended questions in the passage. A study on the open-ended questions in the passage is what will be something that the author will approve of. This question could also be framed as which of the following is most likely to be the next step from the passage argument. What next am I going to do? That again, same options. Which of the following would we need to take up in order to throw light on the author's arguments? Which of the following will help us assess the author's arguments better? All these are different ways of asking the same question. Which of the following will add more depth to the author's arguments in the passage, or which of the following will add the least depth to the author's arguments in the passage? The question could be set in n number of ways. All of those questions mean the same thing. At the end of the day, the question simply boils down to, hey, which are the open-ended questions on the passage? Which ideas were not discussed further? So when there's a question on what should be discussed further, you immediately say, that was not discussed, so probably that will be a good study. This was not discussed, so it will be a good study. There'll always be that one option, the wrong answer, obviously, which has already been ruled out. So search for that. Ruled out in the sense, either the author saying, hey, this will not work, or ruled out in the sense that the answer was already given. If the answer is already given, why will I do a study or research on it? That will be your least likely, or least favorable of all the studies. Okay, that's the thing you need to be able to observe. Kind of test whether you remember all the open-ended ideas of the passage. That's what this question is basically aiming to. It's a wonderful CR question used in a lot of B-school exams. Generally tries to test if you are able to keep track of things that have been resolved and things that have been not resolved in the passage. Okay, I hope that made sense to you, benefited from the video. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, smash the bell. Okay, until next time, peace out.